Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith,
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
and we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 102, April 4th, 2022. Chrome 100, version 100 arrives, and the related productivity and technology news of the week. Of course, each week, Augusto and I read and review and discuss the productivity and related technology news headlines. And so we get started with the productivity blogosphere and audiosphere, the podcasts, blogs, whatever of the week. And then after the break, we come back and we do the tech episode, the tech articles for the episode. And so let's get started with the productivity articles. Augusto, what's our first story this week?
So the first story that we have this week come from CDNet, and it's remote work versus back to the office. And it's a lot more complicated than what realized. That is the title. And, the article talks about, there are more elements, than just working to the office or not working into the office. And the travel and the implications that that will have into life. And I was discussing last week about how when we did the pandemic change, as I call it, okay, January, February, March 2020, depending where you were in that transition, a lot of people went from being in the office, whatever was their normal, to now being at home and trying to be productive. Okay. And well, we discussed that at that time to enough. But what a lot of people have not yet realized is that the next change is here. And people now need to start deciding, one is what their company will do. Well, second, what that means. And for a lot of people means that they are going to live now in a bag because they're going to go to the office 2 or 3 times a week and they're going to work remotely the rest of the time. Your new office is in a bag. And I remember that because I live in that, a bag like that for many, many, many years. But for people, this is new. And what the tendency seems to be is it is going to be more complicated because now a lot of people will need to figure it out how to work back into an office and back into remote and be this hybrid and live in these bags. And it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'm going to continue to keep watching because I think that this is a time that we're going to learn based on what different organizations do. So, all right, on to our next story this week.
Our next story comes from Trello, and I really liked it. The title is Work Life Balance versus Work Life Integration and which hold benefits. And they go into define work life balance. Work life balance basically, you establish clear boundaries between work and life, and what they call work life integration, where those boundaries may not exist as much. I have never been a work life balance guy. I have always been a work life integration. I may read a book at 3 p.m., but then we'll be working on emails at 9. And I'm okay with that. I don't need that balance. I'm lucky enough that I enjoy my work. But there was something that I did not expect in this article, and it's a quote from our friend Alexis Elsenberger. And neither of these perspectives hold more benefit across the board because they are different people and different needs. And I cannot agree with her more. And I've been saying that for years. Work-life balance works great for people. It never worked for me. Not when I try to apply it, not when I begin working. When I'm lucky, I love what I do. So there are moments that I have an idea and I'm not going to wait until tomorrow morning. I will grab laptop, phone, a tablet, whatever it is, to work into that. So integration works much better for me.
Yeah, so if you don't know who Augusto is talking about, snap back to Anything But Idle episode 38, I believe it is, where Alexis Hasselberger joined us on Anything But Idle. So she's an alum of ABI. All right, on to our next story this week, Augusto.
The pyramid of leisure. And this came from the art of that word it could have been the art of manliness. And I know I chopped the title, their thing everywhere, but anyways, they talk about the importance of well used leisure time, and they talk about the pyramid where you go from basic, you know, uh, they call it the antidote to boredom. So you entertain, you trying to escape from monotony, trying to kill in time, and then how you move from what they call, an emotional participation. So you are now moved by appreciation, active participation. When you copy those models, you try to play the part, and finally, the creative participation when you are the inventor, the painter, the composer, the writer. That's at least how I read it, and how this is important to understand where are you into this and which role do you prefer to play into this. And what was interesting for me is I am really really bad at what they call entertainment of amusement. I Over the years I'm sure I was really good at that at some point. um, Over the years, I have gone a lot more in the creative participation and the active participation than any of the lower levels. How about you?
Well, so everybody's on the same page. This is actually the Pyramid of Leisure actually comes from a book by John Nash, Dr. John B. Nash. I'm sorry, J. B. Nash. He was a professor of physical education, health, and recreation. He wrote a book in 1950s, sometime thereabouts. It was called The Philosophy of Recreation and Leisure. And so the pyramid we're referencing, I highly recommend that you check it out in the show notes. Click on the link from The Art of Manliness. It's the Pyramid of Leisure article, as Augusto noted, and so it gives us these 4 tiers of leisure, which I think is interesting in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure this is necessarily how I would model leisure, but I can see how each of those things manifests in my own
Mhm.
life. And I know that I actually spend a considerable amount of time in each of these portions of the pyramid. So at the bottom of, just so people kind of have a visualization, at the bottom of the pyramid is entertainment, amusement, escape from monotony, and then killing time. And so that's what Professor Nash calls the antidote to boredom. And then he steps up a level to emotional participation, then to active participation, and then to creative participation. And I, I can't argue against the model. It's just not how my brain perceives leisure time. And at the same time, Augusto, as much as I do, I've spent a lot of
Mhm.
time thinking about liberalism, and of course, that is, the concept of a free life. And I think you could potentially also call it leisuralism, right? Like, how do we spend our leisure time? And we have more leisure time when we consider how we use our other time that we also consider productive time, because I think leisure time is actually productive time. So I think really what it ends up being is it's like a spectrum for me. You a pendulum swinging along that spectrum in terms of us going in and out of different types of use of our time, and we can potentially think about leisure from an escapist perspective, as he notes at the bottom of the pyramid. We could talk about it from more active engagement at the higher levels, what I would more consider rejuvenative activities, things that are done not for an explicit purpose for, say, professional or career work, but still something that actually is contributing toward some other end, some other means to an end. And I think we should all be considering those things as we are thinking about our productive lives at large, as opposed to thinking about it from a um, like, that's the time I have left over, right? I'm
Mhm.
going to do this with the time I have left over. And going back to Dr. Neil Fiore's concept, he's worked against procrastination for many years, and wrote the book The Now Habit and Now Habit at Work. Read The Now Habit, skip The Now Habit at Work. But his thoughts on it are that really what we do is we relegate leisure, we relegate rewards to an afterthought, to basically throwaway time. And that's not how humans operate best. So if we can actually think about leisure, reward, whatever that might be, as being stuff to positively reinforce us to engage in the work that we have to do that might be mundane, that might not be as fun. We're going to be more engaged in our lives in general. So, all right, we have reached the end of our articles in terms of the blogosphere, if I'm not mistaken, Augusto.
You're correct.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor this week, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. And when we get back, we are going to do our tech articles, and then we are going to get into our featured story of the week, which is going to be all about Chrome 100, Chrome version 100. And so with that, we will see you after the break.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating, and there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/coworking to see how Co-working Space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith, joined with Augusto Pinaud for our second half of the show. We're going to get into our technology articles for the week. Augusto, what's our first article this week?
So the first one is, now we're going to cover some of Google's, but it's Google Docs is getting Markdown. And if you don't know what Markdown is a way to get, was created for the web, I think. And it's a format basically to use in text shortcuts and keyboards so you can get, and then bolts and symbols and stuff. And it's interesting. I cannot explain Markdown. This is sad. But anyways, you cannot headings, bold, do both. And it's a really great way to write, especially when you're reading text, because you don't need to leave the keyboard. You can do, start for a bold, etc. So it's finally coming to Google Docs, and it is something, at least for people who write consistently, very, very exciting.
Yeah, so the people have an awareness. Markdown is basically a markup language, hence the Markdown, but it's lightweight. It gives you the ability to format text in a plain text environment, and then other systems can go ahead and read that Markdown and then apply the formatting appropriately. The most, I guess, the longest one that I know of is Common Mark. And so if anybody is interested in learning more about Common Mark, you can Google it. And so the idea is that instead of having to use your cursor and go to the toolbar, the formatting toolbar of your word editor of choice, in this case Google Docs, and applying the formatting, you can just type this syntax, this markup, so a double pound sign will give you the two number signs next to each other, will give you a heading 2, for example. So, basically one smaller than the largest heading in the system, and other things like that, forward slashes and minus signs on either sides of words. You could do all kinds of interesting types of markup of the plain text that then applies a formatting to it. So Google providing some Markdown support, I think, is brilliant. I think it's just, it's great to have the capability available to us. So all good stuff there.
Awesome. Our next one is about Overcast. Overcast is an application that I particularly use to listen to podcasts, and they recently redesigned, make emphasis on the playlist, on recent episodes, and it could look a lot more useful. I really enjoy that they now put the playlist into big things, into colors. There is a playlist that I have that has things that I listen with the kids almost every day. And I love now that it used to be this small thing to click, and now I can click for the big thumb. It is a fantastic thing. But they did a bunch of things under the hood, as well as the options to now add things to the recent area, look at the podcast. So if you try it on the past and like it, update it. Looks pretty nice. Also, I don't know until when, but it was going to be a free update, at least the version, the normal version, and the premium is still going to be a $9.99 per year, and that removes the banner ads and all those kind of things.
Yeah, that's pretty inexpensive. I mean, that's a pretty affordable application, and I know that Marco Amont and the team over at Overcast do a really great job with the application. I know that it doesn't support video podcasts, as I understand it, but otherwise, all the audio podcasting is really well done in the system.
Yeah.
All right, on to our next story.
So our next one is what to expect from Windows 11, Microsoft Windows 11 hybrid work event. And I have never been that excited about Windows event.
No,
but in
really?
This case, I am. Believe it or not, I am. This is the first time that I'm looking forward for this event, and mostly because I believe that Microsoft has done a really, really good job in the software in the pandemic, in trying to embrace all this. And I'm really curious what they're going to bring. According to the article, we're going to have a smarter clipboard, tabs on the file explorer, and some of these things you already can see. If you go to cross-platform on the tips, there we talk about the smarter clipboard, at least what is available right now for Windows 11. Tabs on the file explorer. There is a new email app that they're going to bring. Teams, and apparently sometime on the first half of 2022, Microsoft has promised that they're going to bring the 3D avatars for Microsoft Team. I don't know about that, okay? Teams conversations, it's not Teams, it's Zoom, it's Meet, doesn't matter, are awkward enough to now start seeing people what they think it's their 3D avatar and how that look. I don't know how I honestly feel about that. But we are going to see more security management, Microsoft Edge. So if you are a Windows user, this may be interesting for you.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested to see how they're going to screw up Microsoft's clipboard. I mean, how they're going to improve the clipboard in Windows 11. I have to say that currently the way in which Windows clipboard works is perfectly fine. They do not need to improve it by kicking Microsoft Teams or Skype into it or anything idiotic like that. So if anyone from Microsoft is listening, please leave clipboard alone.
I think it's a little bit late. This will be April 5th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So at the moment we are recording, I think it's a little late for that. Sorry.
They've already done the git commit.
They're going to mess up. It's already done.
Yeah, they've done the git commit to ruin my my hopes for clipboard. But either way, for those of you who are unawares, right now, if you are on the Windows operating system across, I believe since 8, and maybe back to 7 now, but if you hold down the Windows key and tap the letter V as in Victor, you will have a prompt to either start the Windows clipboard, or you will then have the Windows clipboard triggered, and you can have up to 20 past items that you've clipped to your clipboard available to you. Now, if you have your Windows account in the later versions of Windows connected to a Microsoft account, that is a Microsoft Live or Microsoft 365 account, those clipboard entries can also be synchronized across devices. So if you have multiple laptops or multiple devices with Windows on it, you can then see your clipboard entries across different devices, which is a very handy feature if you want to use it in that capacity. Apple has something very similar, I believe. And so that's all well and fine and currently operating in the system. What they're talking about is adding additional capabilities to clipboard, but that's not where that's not where those features belong. So I really reject this notion that we need to start caking features into places where features don't belong. I don't need to think about executing features where I'm attempting to copy cut, and paste. I should be thinking about those from some different context menu, which we have. We have the right click or the options menu button on Windows to be able to trigger context to do things, not from the clipboard. So I'm going to get off my soapbox and we're going to move on.
So the next we are going to go is to get you into a different soapbox, and we're going to talk about the Moto's paper laptop. And this is the second or third product or offer, that prototype that comes and said, okay, we're going to build a laptop with e-ink. And we're seeing more e-ink, more devices. I am still now going to say to Amazon, when it's coming, your Kindle Fire or whatever you wanted to call it, that is going to be handwrite recognition. In the meantime, we continue talking about this one. What the difference with the Motos is that Moto says we're not interested in running Windows or making this a really computer. This is for reading and writing. And it will be interesting to see, because if you put a decent keyboard or a good keyboard and you give this may be a really nice thing for people who create a lot of content, to have an e-ink where your eyes are not going to get tired, where the machine is basically designed for that. That will be pretty interesting. If this ever comes to product, I may be happy to test it.
Yeah, I think this is going to compete with the FreeWrite. If anybody doesn't
but the
know,
FreeWrite has a 3-line screen. I need more than that.
Well, yeah, I get it. There's some people who like that, some people who don't. I mean, there's the alternative to that, which I believe is the Alpha Smart Neo, a little bit of a less expensive version of the FreeWrite. It's something that lasts a really long time and gives you that capability of being able to write on a slimmed down device. I think this is probably in that same vein. My only concern is that as I look at the device, at least in this prototype image, it doesn't look like the screen flips over into basically collapsible into a tablet mode. It maybe that hinge does flip backwards, but if it doesn't, that's a deal breaker for me. It really needs to be able to lay flat into a tablet mode for me to be able to fully and comfortably read on it. Otherwise, it's solely, to me, a writing device. And that keyboard looks itty bitty. Maybe it's just the image that I'm looking at, but
no, I think it's the image, because what the article said is that for the prototype he used a Lenovo machine for this. I don't know where I found
it. Was an old IBM ThinkPad.
Oh, ThinkPad. Sorry, I'm thinking ThinkPad is for me Lenovo now. You're right, an IBM ThinkPad. So.
Yeah, I don't know. That just has a very large bezel.
No, I agree. The photo doesn't help, but a ThinkPad, as I don't remember a ThinkPad that their keyboards were not good. That was actually their highest thing on those machines.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks very interesting to me. I don't think I would. I just don't need a device like that. I can write on any one of my devices, but I see the value. I see the appreciation of something like this. And we've talked about e-ink display laptops before, and the e-ink displays that like literal monitors that are now available in this space. Just lots of really good stuff happening there. And I like the idea of having a touchscreen e-ink display that you can just use for days and days without running out of battery, because these things just use so little. So that's interesting to me in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what the battery is going to be like on this laptop, but even if it gives you 16, 17, 18 hours of battery life, that's going to be far superior to other laptops that are out there on the market. I'm not sure that's what that is, but pretty curious, interested to see what's going on there. All right. With that, those are our tech stories for the week. We are going to hop, skip, and jump over our other segments this week because we have a lot to cover in our featured story of the week, which is that Chrome OS version 100, Chrome version 100, so browser and operating systems, both reached the very important milestone of 100. And so, let's get into Chrome OS and Chrome version 100 and what's new in those two versions of the operating system and browser.
Well, let's start with the operating system, the Chrome OS. And, there is a lot of things. One of the things is they include a window similar to what Windows people are familiar. You used to be able to click on the corner and then you will get a whole screen of apps. And now you're getting a Windows Start menu like thing with the applications. And that you can now see the icons in there. And for what I understand, you can even sort the icons in there in different ways, group them together. So they really try to bring that to a different level, because as you get to be heavy using the Chromebook, that open there, it's now pages of pages of pages of things. So it seems like that work. They add new
Hold
dictation.
on. So I'm just gonna say it for everybody. It was a terrible user design. It was a terrible experience, and I fully admit that. And I am
They bring
so
somebody
glad.
from the Windows world to design that.
But I'm really glad that they did this. I mean, it makes so much more sense for it to come up now and give you a clear ability to search. And remember, this is like the everything search, or the universal search it's sometimes
Right.
called. But this is the place where you search for files and your browser tabs, as well as your apps and settings and everything else like that. And so having that space where you had to find that little tiny arrow button to be able to get it to expand, and it was all kinds of silly. And for folks like me who are very used to working with their keyboard and kind of executing from that space, it's not as much of a problem. But the moment you put your finger on the touchpad and you're already there, then it becomes this like issue of you having to have great dexterity in terms of being able to find where you're going and how you're getting there. And I
Mhm.
found that to be very frustrating for myself and other users. So I'm really, really pleased to see them add this new launcher to the system. Okay, continue on.
So your camera app now can create GIFs or GIF or whatever you wanted to call it these days. But regardless, you can pop up the camera and sorry, the internal joke is that we have discussed and how to I mispronounce it every time. So that is the reason of the joke. But anyways, you can now pop up the camera and choose and record the 3 seconds, and that will create a GIF. And I think that is a feature that obviously is not appealing to me, but I could see kids in school with those Chromebooks creating so many of them. And and again, the more fun you make the platform, the more people use it, the more people eventually, even if it's by mistake, learn new things. The dictation has been, as I said, significantly improved. Um, the browser, obviously, when I don't know what else I am missing on the Chrome OS area.
Yeah, so it only had a few highlights from Google themselves in terms of the updates to Chrome OS 100. I will note though, since we're gonna restir the pot on that debate. The GIFs or GIFs, as younger folks are to call them GIFs, and those of us of an older generation call them GIFs. Don't at me, but the creator of the GIF, Stephen Wilhite, actually passed away in March, and he was 74, and so he, at his Webby Lifetime Achievement Award acceptance, did say that the name and way to pronounce that thing is a GIF. And so you can pronounce it however you want to, but just in honor of Steve Wilhite, he did pass away last month, and so he did invent the GIF, and kudos to him, and he will be missed. So that being the case, I think it's just really phenomenal that they've built a GIF maker directly into the operating system.
Right.
It's such a great additional feature to have. And otherwise, they've only highlighted a few of those refinements to 100. They've got a lot more coming in the OS to come in the next couple of months. So there'll be lots more to talk about when we see basically the 101, 102, and 103 coming out in the next few months.
Yeah,
All
so
right, onto the
then
browser.
we move to Chrome, actually browser, that also was released 100 on Windows, Mac, iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, basically anywhere you can get it. And one of the things that came new was the logo or the icon. And, you know, when the first thing that came to me as this came was an old movie. And I know I said at the beginning of the show that I watch little movies, but I do. But regardless, it was the movie was The Devil Wear Prada. And there isn't a scene in that movie where this character Andy's coming and she's laughing about the color blue. And Meryl Streep goes into all this, oh, you think this is blue? Let me tell you. And she unloaded on how people came to that. And that's what I feel when I saw the link. I said, oh, you remove the shadow. And as soon as I said that, that's the scene that came in my movie, thinking how many millions Google spent into removing that shadow. Anyways, since 2014, the logo of the icon of Chrome has been the same, and now it's changed.
I think it looks far superior to the original logo that came out, back in whatever it was, 2014 or so. It's definitely 2008, I suppose, was the first version of Chrome. So
yeah, there is an improvement from 2008 without any doubt.
Yeah, and I think now it's just more vibrant and just flatter. And so the goal here is to, of course, create greater accessibility and just a clear, image, iconography that tells a brand story about Chrome. And I think going from 2008 to 2022, you can see a clear evolving definition of that brand language, of that vision that the Google Chrome team has had about it. And I'm frankly pleased. In full disclosure, I'm a volunteer in the Google Chrome help forum, so I'm a Google Chrome product expert. And I watched the Chrome project very, very closely, both Chromium, many of the other Chrome-based browsers, and really all of the various Chrome versions, Dev, Canary, and otherwise. And this most recent Chrome stable desktop version is just a remarkable, achievement of of actually open source software, if you want to think about it from that perspective, because the Chromium project, which ultimately births Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Opera, Brave, you name all of these other Chromium-based browsers. This is a large for-profit corporation that is championing an open source browser project, and it has basically consumed the world in terms of browser adoption. And at the end of the day, I believe that open source will rule the world, and we could probably already see that. Look at all of the various Linux-based and Linux kernel-based application operating systems that are in existence today, and we are in this phase where people tend to think, well, there's lots of proprietary software out there. Look at Apple, look at Microsoft; they're still doing well in the world. At the end of the day, though, open source will be able to eat the cake, because with the right energy and the right perseverance, open software, that is free software, free licensed software, is how we will ultimately find the level of adaptation, adaptability, and really extensibility that the world needs. And so, I'll again get off my soapbox here, but I really do believe in free software or open source software, and I'm very, very pleased to see the Google Chrome project continue to thrive. There's a lot of stuff that it can be better at. There's a lot of ways in which Google could manage the product better, but you know what? There's a security flaw. In almost a heartbeat, Google is responding to that, and that means that the Chromium project gets that update, which means that Edge gets updated, which means all of the other Chromium-based browsers get updated in short speed, and it keeps the world and the internet protected, the users of the internet protected in so many ways by virtue of them being so responsive to the project. And so I give them a lot of credit. There's a lot of ways in which we can talk ill of all of the big tech, but this is one way in which they have helped champion the web, both from a security perspective, not necessarily from a privacy perspective, but from a security perspective, and doing some really good things. And I would hope that Apple would maybe, fall in line and follow some of the good ways in which the Chromium project has pushed the web forward. PWAs. uh, so just a little bit of PWA support is all I'm asking for.
No, but I'm going to say I'm going to set something in here, because I have in the past said, well, Apple, why Apple not? And I was corrected on our 100 episode. I don't remember if it was during the show or on the pre-show. Honestly, I don't. But on the show, Trevor Lowbeard came and we were talking about it, and I said, yeah, I wish to have them on my iPad. And he said, no, you can't. I said, no, you cannot. I said, yes, you can. And I said, show me. So he told me the problem, and he told me clearly, so I know what you can't. I said, why? Because you are trying to do it from Google. Of course, I'm trying to do it from Chrome. I said, yes. But in the iPad, the Chrome version, it's not Chrome.
Yeah, it's Apple WebKit.
Try to do it from Safari. And as soon as I did it from Safari, I had my PWA. So I'm really thankful from Trevor to teach me that. But the interesting thing is, I start sharing that with a couple of my Uber Apple geek friends. Say, you can do PWA. And I share it with somebody specifically. And he was like, no, you cannot. I said, of course. Okay. And it's good to say that I co-wrote the iPad only book with this guy. Okay. And he is a developer. And he was like, no, you cannot. So I show him, and he was like, great. Now I can have 3 different versions of this software installed in this iPad for testing. And one of the things I think Apple has been doing really poorly is embrace them and explain people what they are. I get it that you don't get money from the PWA and you get it from the Apple Store, but it's time that people learn how to use PWAs into the iPad ecosystem.
Yeah, I think iPad has supported some version of PWAs since iOS 13.
It was just not intuitive to do it. It was counterintuitive, and because of that, most people don't even know they exist.
Right. But their limitation of Chrome being able to install a PWA is still there, and yes. Apple just let go. All right. Onward with Chrome 100. What else do we want to talk about regarding Chrome 100 minus their refreshed logo?
Well, no, there is a lot of things. There are 23 security things that they fixed. And we need to remember, Google is on a 4-week schedule now to release new things. So we are going to see more and more things coming up more and more faster. One of the things that we're already seeing is that web apps can use multiple screens now. They add a new multiple screen Windows placement API, so that now, in a stable way, can recognize, I have multiple screens, and can work with them in a much better way than what it was before. The other thing, this is a feature that I particularly appreciate, is if you have Chrome and you have a tab making noise because you open a YouTube, or because you can now on the tab click on this little speaker and take it and mute that sound. I think that is so nice, especially when you have multiple devices and you're doing something somewhere and you get a call or you get something else in another. So there is a lot to do. It is a big deal. It's not only that it's the 100, it is how much they have done into this. But I hope you already downloaded and are playing with it.
Yeah, I mean, so that people have an awareness. When they switched to the 4-week cycle, that was back in March, April of last year, and it's 2021, and so they started clicking up numbers a little bit faster than they otherwise would have, and so like we're at 100 faster than I thought we would have gotten, but I think that between now and 200, that will be at a much faster clip than it took 14 years to get us to 100. It'll be much faster for us to get to 200. I forget how many years that is, but it's a few years. And Chrome runs across Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS. It runs across a lot of different operating systems, and all of them now are at version 100 along with its parallel Chrome OS 100. So like when you think about the power and some kind of surface that Chrome has created across all of these major operating systems, I'm really pleased with its abilities to stay both up to date and up to speed and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the latest updates. I'm pleased with the stability of it. I haven't seen any stability issues, and I'm hoping that in this most recent version, normally when I see a new update come, what will happen is my entire system will just basically bog down until I update. It's like Chrome wants to push me to update, and so the whole system just kind of slows down on one of my devices, and that's when I know that an update is pushed to me. That didn't happen in this most recent version, and I'm curious whether or not they finally cured that outstanding bug. I'll have to go actually into the bug tracker and see if that they actually solved that problem. But across different profiles, I've seen speed improvements this past year, just remarkable speed improvements. It's still one of the fastest browsers, if not the fastest browser out there. Like if your Chrome is running slowly, it is likely not Chrome that is doing it. It's
Right.
basically an extension. Get rid of those extensions, turn off those extensions, and see how it's going, or do an underlying hard drive review. Look at whether your hard drive something like what's the name of the software now? It's escaping me now, but there's software to basically analyze your hard drive to see whether or not it's up to speed. You can run, some tests on your CPU and your memory to make sure that they aren't hanging you up here. But for the most part, Chrome has done a really fantastic job of making the browser itself just lightning fast. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I sound like a Chrome evangelist all of a sudden, but I've been I've actually been really pleased with a lot of the improvements in the last year, and that's been really good. Anything else about Chrome 100?
No, I cannot think on anything else right now.
Oh, I'll note here, and I saw this in the notes here, that Chrome on mobile, so all the mobile versions are getting rid of light mode. That used to be like a version that would allow you to
Oh, yes.
get rid of things and do some data compression and whatever else. In essence, they're basically doing all of the improvements within the software itself, and so they're no longer doing that server side light mode or data saver mode or whatever they called them in the past. And so that's going to be it's just going to go away, which is fine. It really hasn't been a major issue, and I think that's just about it in terms of the major. There's a lot of under the hood minor little fixes here and there that I've been really pleased with. The other major thing, and this is not a Chrome 100 thing, but if you've ever had a lot of Chrome tabs open on your mobile device and lost those, Google Chrome now has done a really fantastic job of giving you control over getting back those they're not being lost in the first place kind of situations. And I've also liked the fact that when you're on a desktop device, you can go ahead and access the open tabs from your mobile device on the desktop device just by clicking on your three dots and then going to history. You will see your other devices listed under that history section, and you'll be able to jump to it. So it's really helpful. I'm not quite sure what version the sidebar came to. Forgive me, but this might have been a Chrome 99 one. But in the sidebar, you now have the reading list and bookmarks. So your bookmarks have now moved. They are still, if you drop down three dots in the top right hand corner on the desktop, you'll still see bookmarks. But if you click on the new little icon, it looks like a square with a darkened, a thick bar on the right hand side. That is now your, I forget what it's called, side panel, not sidebar. If you click on that, it actually opens up the side panel, and now you have two tabs, your reading list and your bookmarks. So think of your reading list as like, you browse the web for various articles,
Right.
and you can now save them there as a temporary holding zone for you to be able to read them, and so on and so forth. So you can just add the current tab and keep doing that on various websites. So it's nice to be able to have this functionality right there in the browser. I'm not quite sure I'll use the reading list, but I really like having this new side panel with the bookmarks bar, because now you're browsing, and so you have the browser here, and right next to it you have your bookmarks, and you can actually review the bookmarks in a little bit nicer of a fashion. I'm hoping they add a search field at the top of this list because I want to be able to search my bookmarks from that space, and you currently can't. And so I've not really found a way for you to search this without going into the bookmarks manager. So this seems a little bit odd that they didn't give you that capability in here. But I've already spoke to the Chrome team and noted my need for some kind of search here. I mean, it makes total sense that you would want to search within the side panel of the bookmarks that you have here, and even your reading list. They give you the capability of searching your tabs. So I can see them adding something very similar as basically just a little upside down caret to the right of the bookmarks and reading list, so that you can click on it and search those items that are in the list. Because I have a lot of bookmarks. I have just dozens and dozens of bookmarks in the system, and I want to be able to see those. So again, like I said, I can't remember which Chrome version that showed up in, but it should now be up there in your bar. So anything else, sir?
No, that's
so
all that we have to. Oh no, that's not true. We have the announcements. That's all that we have on Chrome.
Go for it with the announcements.
So there are two important announcements. One is Apple iOS, iPad iOS 15.4.1 and macOS 12.3.1 was released last Thursday. Make sure you update all your Mac and iOS devices. There are important security things that were fixed into this. And the second thing is Zooms is trying to remind everyone that their Chrome app is going to go away in favor of the PWA. And initially when they launched the PWA, but it's been improved. It's been really good now, really workable now. So those are the two announcements we have for this week. But if you use an iOS, iPadOS, or macOS, make sure you update pronto.
Fantastic. All right. And with that, we've covered the productivity and related technology news this week. Thank you, Augusto, for putting together the show this and every week.
It's my pleasure.
All right, everybody. On anythingbutidle.com, you'll find our show notes. Those include links to all the stories we've discussed, plus any extra stories we didn't cover during our time together, and text transcripts, both readable on the page. One you can also download as a PDF locally so you can read offline. And so after surveying our show notes, reading through the show notes, please let us know if there's a story we missed. You can leave a comment. You can tweet or DM us at Anything But Idle. So our Twitter handle is at Anything But Idle. You can also tweet or DM us at either of our Twitter profiles, but we have one dedicated to Anything But Idle. You can also use our contact form on the website, anythingbutidle.com/contact. If you have a question or a comment about anything we discussed today on the show, you can do the same right there on the episode page. So if you go to anythingbutidle.com/102, you will be taken to today's episode. I'll also note that we actually have a community dedicated to Anything But Idle on inside of Personal Productivity Club. You probably heard during the break talking about co-working space, living inside of Personal Productivity Club. Well, inside of Personal Productivity Club, we also have a channel. It's free to join. You just come to anythingbutidle.com/community. That'll take you to the join page. And in there, we post each of the episodes. You feel free to go ahead and dialogue about anything that we talked about on the show or anything that we missed. If this is your first time watching us, welcome, and feel free to subscribe using the subscribe button so that you can get notified when we go live weekly. They're on YouTube or wherever else you're watching from. If you're listening to the podcast, feel free to add us in your favorite podcast app. Some of you might be watching from Twitter. You feel free to follow the Twitter account as well if you want to see when we go live weekly. We do restream to Twitter as well. If you've enjoyed spending time or watching us today or listening to us in the podcast, feel free to leave a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or any other podcast app or site that allows you to leave a rating or review. Your compliments really help us reach more of a personal productivity listening community. And so thank you for doing that. And with that, we will see you all next time here on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life.